Good night. Sweet dreams. That's what my dad would say to me. But sometimes I had trouble falling asleep. Then he would tell me stories about his travels. I want this tradition to live on. So now, let me share my stories with you. The steady droning of the engines lulls me into a pleasant state of drowsiness. My whole body seems to vibrate in harmony with the machine. I have been flying over the sea, which lies beneath me like a grey, smooth carpet, for almost 5 hours now. Past the British Isles, past Iceland, on course for the largest island in the world, Greenland, or Kalaallit Nunaat, the land of the Greenlanders, as it is called in the language of the Inuit who live there. In the 18th century, the island was colonized by the Danish and has been an autonomous part of the Kingdom of Denmark since the 1980s. The airplane descends ever lower over the frozen fjords on the west coast of the island. It is a wondrous scenery of snow and ice, white and blue as far as the eye can see. In the twilight of the setting sun, a mystical glow emanates from the snow-covered mountains. The orange-red rays conjure glittering reflections over the gentle hills. The horizon blurs into a pinkish, milky haze. And as the aircraft continues to lose altitude, the sun disappears completely behind the mountains. It is a wistful moment. For the next 7 days, I will not see it again. Only on January 13 will it rise again over this part of the world. I won't see the sun for 7 days, but the people here have been waiting for 2 months for this special event, which has been celebrated in Greenland for centuries, the return of the sun. With a gentle jolt, the airplane now touches down on the runway of the international airport of Kangerlussuaq. I bundle myself up tightly in my thermal jacket and step outside for the first time into the cold, dry polar air and into Greenland's blue hour. The blue hour is not an hour at all, actually, but a long, deep blue twilight that covers Greenland's polar nights. Stepping into the cold clears my lungs, and I feel my worries evaporate immediately, just like the small clouds of my breath. But I still have another flight ahead of me. A small propeller plane takes me through the dark blue, icy night to the small town of Ilulissat. It means icebergs, and not without reason. The little town lies on a fjord in the Disco Bay, where a huge glacier flows into the sea. It advances at a speed of 40 meters a day, not very fast for a human being, but quite impressive for a tongue of ice. Calving is the term used when large masses of ice break off at the mouth of the glacier and become icebergs. I have to smile a little. I can't help imagining the glacier as a gigantic cow releasing its calves into the icy sea. These enormous monsters can be seen everywhere, glittering like a mountain range off the coast. But the calm of the giants is deceptive. Icebergs are constantly in motion. Here, they begin a journey that can take them all the way to New York. The iceberg that the Titanic struck on its maiden voyage, 500 kilometers southeast of Newfoundland, also originated in Greenland, from the very disco bay I am looking at now. My godmother, my father's sister, picks me up by car. 20 years ago, she came to Greenland for a research stay. As it happens, she fell in love and stayed here, in this endless wilderness of ice and rubble. Even though we rarely see each other, I've always liked her. Her calm, thoughtful way of looking at you, her fine dimples where mischief resides, and her warm embraces. She hugs me tightly in greeting. "You are looking more and more like your father," she says, smiling. She steers quite quickly along a single-lane road, so fast that the snow sprays up on the sides, covering the windows. There are hardly any roads in Greenland. Picking you up from the airport is a rare opportunity to step on the gas a bit, she says, showing her dimples. Even at almost 70 years old, she has retained that youthful energy. Ilulissat is a small place, just under 5,000 people, but one of the larger towns by Greenlandic standards. When I get out of the car, the first thing I notice is the quiet. It is as all-encompassing as the darkness, a deep, black-blue silence that is only occasionally broken by the howling of a dog. I feel like I can even hear the cracking and creaking of the icebergs. The small single-story buildings of the town are loosely scattered across the landscape. The little house where my aunt and her husband live is garishly colorful like all the others around us. The light blue, sunny yellow, and grass-green facades seem unreal amid the snow, as if a giant had been playing Monopoly and, out of spite, had placed all his houses on a very remote street. "Ours is an Arctic fireweed," my aunt says proudly, stroking the pink-purple wood. "By the way, that's also the national flower of Greenland, Niviasiak. That means young girl," she says, laughing her impish laugh. Inside the simple, low-ceilinged house, Nanook, my aunt's husband, is already waiting. A hearty stew is steaming on the stove in the kitchen. Lamps and fairy lights bathe the living room in a cozy yellow glow. Nanook greets me with a firm handshake and a look from warm, piercing, intelligent eyes. "Welcome," he says, and I can tell that he truly means it. Now my Arctic adventure has begun. Over the following days, I learned that twilight comes in many different shades and nuances. There is the dark blue dusk that drapes itself over the town like a velvet blanket, while the lights of the houses and ships create sparkling reflections on the snow and ice. There is the delicate pink dawn in the morning, in which the landscape looks as if it were coated with cotton candy. And there is the twilight of clear, bitterly cold afternoons around 2 p.m., when the sky glows yellowish-white and everything is suffused with an inner radiance that makes you squint. The polar night is therefore less dark than you might imagine. It shines and glows and smolders and sparkles. I learned that the myth of the 300 different words for snow is indeed a myth. In West Greenlandic, there are only 2 different words: kanik for falling snow and aput for snow lying on the ground. I also learned that encountering a polar bear in the wild is very rare, and I'm a little disappointed. And I learned that one should not pet the fluffy, friendly-looking Greenland dogs that are tethered in front of some houses. These animals are anything but lapdogs. Ilulissat lies north of the dog equator, where no other dog is allowed to cross. This is meant to prevent domestic dog breeds from mixing with these robust sled dogs. These are hard work dogs and must remain so. In winter, they sleep in the snow at -40 degrees Celsius, shake the frost off their thick fur in the morning, and once again begin wagging their tails, ready to pull heavy loads. For the Inuit, these sturdy dogs are vital for survival. They say there are as many dogs as human inhabitants in Ilulissat. There are only roads within town limits. Outside, in winter, one depends on snowmobiles, off-road vehicles, and sled dogs. And since gas stations and gasoline are not exactly found on every corner, the dogs are a very practical way of travel. Even today, many of the inhabitants choose this form of transportation. On the 3rd day of my stay, we go on a small tour. A friend of Nanook owns a pack of about 20 animals. With practiced movements, the owner harnesses his dogs to the sled. While we make ourselves as comfortable as possible, bundled up thickly in reindeer skins, they lie utterly calm in the snow and blink at me in a friendly way, as if to reassure me that I don't need to worry. They have everything under control. But when the owner clicks his tongue, a jolt runs through the pack, and at his call, the powerful animals pull forward. Suddenly, we are gliding over the snow. The icy wind drives tears into my eyes, but my heart is pounding with wild joy. All that can be heard is the patter of the dog's paws, tirelessly pulling us onward, out into an endless white expanse. I snuggle deeper into the furs and my scarf. It is truly a harsh life out here, but also one of impossible beauty. The snow and the gentle hills glow bluish in the twilight, while the pale moon rises and casts a silvery sheen. On a small hill we get off for a moment. My limbs are icy cold despite the many layers of clothing. The dogs, however, simply lie down in the snow, all of them panting with their pink tongues showing. My aunt nudges me in the side, and then I see it too. Above us, green curtains of light flicker across the night sky. Aurora Borealis, the northern lights. Full of awe, I watch the shimmering veils that constantly reform, sometimes floating across the sky like wisps of mist, then flaring like a flickering fire. It is completely silent, a deep, vast silence that seems to contain the entire endless landscape and the arched sky within it, along with the magical glow of the aurora. And then I think to myself, who needs the sun when you witness this? But of course, 2 days later, like everyone else, I set out to celebrate the return of the lost celestial body. Since November 30, the inhabitants of Ilulissat have not seen a single ray of sunshine. It is a day everyone has long been anticipating. Schools and shops close early. Around noon, a small migration begins. Young or old, everyone makes the roughly 2-kilometer journey to the traditional viewpoint. Sekini-Yarvik, which means the place you go to greet the sun. Some pass us on snowmobiles and others on dog sleds, but most, like us, walk on foot through the crunching snow. Scattered across the mountain ridges, groups of people can be seen moving toward the same destination. Small black dots amid the all-devouring white. It is a strange procession that touches me deeply. There is already a soft streak of rosy silver light, but the air is icy cold. Our breath hangs in little clouds in front of our faces, and Nanuk's beard is covered in frost. We don't say much. Some people go crazy in the silence and cold and loneliness and want nothing more than to get away from here, my godmother told me a few days ago. But you can also become addicted to it, and then you can't imagine another way of life. At this moment, I understand her. And then we reach the highest point of the hilltop. I draw in a breath of bitterly cold air. Below us lies the icy fjord in all its splendor. I shake my head slightly. The sight is so unreal and fantastic. The sea consists of thick, jagged icebergs that rise like unpolished crystals. A mysterious blue shimmer seems to emanate from the interior of the ice. This bizarre desert stretches all the way to the horizon. I look at my wristwatch. 13:13. At this magical moment, the sun should appear above the horizon. A tense anticipation seems to grip the crowd. A school class right next to us strikes up a song, a melancholic yet cheerful melody. Bright and clear, the young voices ring out across the ice in their guttural West Greenlandic language. And then the first golden ray of sunlight emerges. Cheers erupt, and tears involuntarily well up in my eyes, immediately freezing to my cheeks. Only now, in this moment, as the golden light touches my skin, do I realize how much I have missed the sun, even in the 7 days of my stay. Happily, I squint into the bright light. The ice sparkles in the most beautiful shades of orange as the red orb of the sun climbs higher and higher. She shows herself for barely an hour on this day, but from now on she will not disappear again so quickly. Today, as 1,000 years ago, this day is an important moment in the lives of Greenland's inhabitants. Sun means life. Never has that been more clear to me than today. Even when lying in my warm bed later that evening, once again surrounded by darkness, I am filled with a sense of gratitude. with a comforting thought that even the darkest winter will one day come to an end, that after bitter cold and ice and green flickering northern lights, the sun will eventually reappear again on the horizon, that there will always be a spring again. Thoughts come more slowly now, unhooking themselves. The memory of blue light lingers behind my eyes, that deep, impossible blue. I feel grateful, not for warmth alone, but for rhythm. That winter is not an interruption, but a chapter that knows exactly when to end. As sleep approaches, the promise of return drifts through me like a distant warmth. The sun edging back toward the horizon, the long pause before it appears, the first day that feels just a little longer than the last. I imagine birch leaves unfolding in pale green silence, meadows breathing again, a blackbird cutting through the evening air. The images arrive without urgency, like memories borrowed from the future. Somewhere between waking and sleep, in that private, interior blue hour, I let go. The dark holds, and knowing that light is already on its way, even if it has a long journey still to make, I drift into a deep, relaxing sleep.